A lot of times, engine burns oil because of low tensile of piston rings, and they don't seal right. Patrick's garage. This can be a dangerous signal if engine burns about a quart every 1,000 miles. It's because these have low tensile piston rings, and piston rings have such little pressure pushing out that if they carbon up, they don't seal right. You know my 140 series in 1969, a big oil consumer, and now its oil consumption over the age. Maybe now it's too late to replace the rings, but we will consider all ways, and no less important thing how they will be installed. There is these rings. Their design made so that oil ring consists from three parts, and no one gap shouldn't be under the wrist pin. Also, what interesting, I've noticed that wrist pin not directly on the center of the piston. And of course, you want to make sure that none of the gap ends are directly over the wrist pin. Yes, you say that non idleness in absolute persistency because they will going to move anyway. But will be better that compression rings will be more opposite of each other. Not good if the engine burns oil. But main question, how much engine burns oil? Is it acceptable or not? Maybe will be better to have a jar on the trunk with oil. There is these gaps of rings need to be away from each other, especially compression rings. In a lot of cases, mechanics don't care too much about that and put them in the same distance from each other. Three gaps, three rings. It will be approximately 120 degrees. Yes, easiest decision, but not under the wrist pin. There is no arguing that. But what should we do if the gaps in pistons worn increased by old rings? And can WD-40 dissolve all dirt in these gaps? And here is second rings, you see, and replacement of rings improve the situation with oil consumption, at least temporarily. But sure, it couldn't cause harm, I hope. I wasn't able to find original oils for B18 when it only started burning oil. It's too much burn oil. Maybe in some extent, new rings can be helpful. So we're never going to reinstall to their rings even in their position in their original location in the same position. So we always need to put new rings. This is recommended in all recommendations. You know, I personally prefer as one unit or ring, but I'm not think that this design too much iffy so. And in present moment, very hard to find rings for these pistons B18 engine Volvo. And with worn rings, engine burns oil. And when they are dirty oil rings, This is old piston rings. They just start a lot before we take them, and they should be installed somehow. This is rails in opposites. There are gaps in opposite directions. All these pistons gaps should be in a respective position. Rings can be very helpful if the piston cylinders work, but we can put the rings into all the way of their cylinder, and with a lamp from another side we can observe how they match to the surface of cylinder. And main thing, gap inside the cylinder. And I have a little bit wonder probably it will be enough to stop burn oil, only replacing the rings. And here is in this rings kit instruction, so we can trace all these instruction to figure out something maybe interesting, helpful. So we are going through all this instruction. There is interesting, funny pictures. Sure enough, it's more pleasure to find this is interesting instruction. So they carry our interest on their products. All sizes in inch. In our engine B18 always was only in inch sizes. There was long before B18 engine was, before B20, when they go insane and put the metric crankshaft inside the inch sizes engine. And I really hope my brain still works. Piston rings should be coordinated for their position, their sizes, so we don't want to get a recurrent process with burning oil. These rings we can install, they can be implemented for B18 engine, only for Volvo 140 series, for Volvo Amazon. And here is the piston rings. Here is the old catalog from 90s and all the list of piston rings. And here is available only standard sizes for B18 Volvo, which can be suitable for Volvo Amazon, for Volvo 140 series, 61, 68. My engine from 68. There is another catalog with substitutes. We can learn from here original numbers for parts, different years, different modifications. These should be paid attention to. These parts cost more, little bit, than original versions. They really shouldn't cost so much money. Hardly to find them now. And you probably wouldn't found that in 1,000 years. Either except we found old ones from old stock, new condition. It would only be possible if you find them online, even though online stores can not have these parts which we need. Contrary to modern cars, so hard to find them now. Oh, in olden days, a lot of people had been dreading the absence of spare parts without online stores. There is the letter M, that means Marke, which was made in Germany by Germans. These pistons and these rings. This is for B20. B20 Volvo 140 series. For the time being, I have only these pistons, new pistons for B20. So let's compare our data. Don't trust the sellers, what they say. So you can't trust anybody see original data in catalog. So you got to see it yourself. I doubt if that's the problem, only rings. All what interrelated with the rings. So piston gaps for rings, cylinder bores, walls, and what interesting for different cars, different positions of ring gaps recommended for rings installation. If we see to lower part of engine to the engine block, engine burns oil because of low tensile of piston rings, or if it just physically warm. And yes, all this consider that you check the PCV ventilation system. So if you're interested, you can watch my video about crankcase ventilation system Volvo B18 and Volvo B20, which was used for Volvo 140 series and Volvo Amazon. Now, thank you so much for watching. Till next time.